Hello, we're Bonnie and Greg Dixon with Jerry Smith and Cheryl Hughes here for Health Pioneer Theater.
And we are so blessed to have Cheryl Hughes, my friend, mentor, compadre in life, with us today. And we actually interviewed Cheryl about 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And we fast forward to today. We're going to show a little video of Cheryl, and then we're going to come back and have a conversation.
Sounds great. I'm Cheryl Hughes, and I'm the owner of the Whole Wheatery, and I started my journey in the natural products industry in 1979 when I went to work for a company that actually pioneered nutrition in California, and that was Gladys Lindberg, and I worked for Lindberg Nutrition. At the time, they had 13 stores, and they were really right there in the forefront with Adele Davis, Linus Pauling, Carlton Fredericks. All of those girls and boys were the ones that really got this industry to another level. Mrs. Lindberg was actually the person that founded the Pack-A-Day because she had customers that were blind and they needed some of the supplements, so she put them together in a little baggie for them. At the time, there was only like vitamin A, vitamin C, lecithin, brewer's yeast. But her story was so amazing in that when she started feeding her children well, they became rosy-cheeked and healthy, and other parents wanted her information. So they birthed this company, Lindberg Nutrition. Lindberg Nutrition actually founded a warehouse distribution center called Nature's Best, which today is known as KeHE. So there's a great evolution of history in the natural products industry. When I first worked for Lindbergh's, I used to go to the trade shows all the time, and I got the opportunity to meet the people that founded these companies. I mean, there was Rachel Perry, who was the queen of cosmetics at the time. I actually did shake the hand of Linus Pauling and Jeffrey Bland. Linus Pauling, as you know, instituted and pioneered all the work in vitamin C. Dr. Shute did all the work in vitamin A. He was there. And from the Merv Griffin show, there were the people that did Life Extension, Dirk Pearson, Sandy Shaw, the founder of Arrowhead Mills, Frank Ford. These people walked the store floors. It was like going to Hollywood of the natural products industry. So those trade shows were absolutely filled with a plethora of people and information, and they were so exciting to attend, and they still are. Natural Products Expo, East and West, is full of the same kind of energy. It's almost a tangible energy. People inventing and creating and coming up with new products all along. So fast forward, I decided to start my own business and figured that Lindbergh's was a great, groundbreaking way to get in the natural products industry, and I learned what I needed to learn, and I opened my own store in 1983, and I'm still here. It's 36 years later. And it was a great experience because we started out with a little cafe, a few sit-down seats. We did soup and sandwiches and shakes and smoothies, which we still do today, soups and sandwiches, shakes and smoothies, but in a much larger format. We had 3 or 4 people that worked for us. Now we have almost 50. But the other thing that I would say about the interesting parts of the early days is I had the opportunity to go to school, back to school actually, and get my degree in nutrition counseling. The National Institute of Nutritional Education was an online course that allowed us to be able to counsel and talk to people about nutrition. The other thing that was really great is that I decided that I wanted to be part of the industry, and I met retailers like Howard Pollock from Rainbow Acres, who actually was the original founder of Nature's Best by selling it over to the Lindberg Nutrition family. And Howard said to me, if you really want to get involved in this industry, you need to sit on a board. And I go, board of what? And he said, a board of directors that serves the natural products industry. And so I sat on the NNFA, which was the Natural Nutritional Foods Association at the time. I served there for probably 12 years. During that time, we had several experiences that changed the face of the industry. We had the NLEA, the Nutrition Labeling and Education Act, which was the first major fight to make sure that we protected consumers' rights for advocacy of nutritional supplements and their ability to buy them over the counter. 10 years later, we went back in 1996, I believe it is, or 94, and we did the DSHEA, Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. I was actually very prominent in working for that because we helped to create something called the Blackout, which we showed consumers and customers across the United States what it would be like if they did not have access to dietary supplements, if they had to go to their doctor and they couldn't just walk into a natural product store and buy it off the shelf. So we had to lobby Congress, we had to get petitions, we had to black out sales for a day, and this was an amazing event that went all across the United States, and retailers participated, and that's how we gathered enough signatures to actually get that really in front of Congress and really go after Congress and say, look, we need access to this. We met with congressmen, we met with senators, we advocated on the Hill, we did a lot of work, and we finally got DSHEA passed. Now, DSHEA is still the law that's in existence today that protects the dietary supplement industry and allows us to continue to sell dietary supplements over the counter without a prescription. It also has all the regulatory backbone that's necessary for the FDA to do anything that would be a problem with a dietary supplement. You know, adverse effects and adverse events are reported so the FDA knows what's going on. They get the opportunity to look at a product to see if that product can go to market. So all the regulatory regulatory backbone is still in DSHEA today. So back up a little further, and even during that time I was able to participate in something called the Organic Trade Association, which was just being birthed. And OTA is what actually started to work with NOSB, the National Organic Standards Board, at the USDA and develop standards for organic retailing. I served on the board that did the organic retailing standards, and they're how you do organic handling of products. So that was a fabulous experience. I've been a member of OTA and still am today. They're back looking at that GORP, which is the Good Organic Retail Practicing part of the organic legislation, so how they could upgrade and maybe make that a little bit more available and known to all retailers across the United States, so we keep and maintain the integrity of organics from farm to table. So that was a wonderful foray. I served on that for several years. Then I got involved with FMI, which is the Food Market Institute, which is the big grocery conglomerate, and I served on the Natural Products Board for them. And that was a whole different experience because we're talking about stores that in those early days didn't have anything but standard grocery items. And what we found was they were starting to bring in natural products. Well, fast forward and take a look today, baby, because natural products are in every supermarket, every 7-Eleven, everywhere. And I remember one of the wishes of the industry, as I heard it in the early days, was to make natural foods available and affordable for everybody. And it seems like that's becoming truer and truer every day. So those experiences of getting involved in the industry, serving on boards, was just an incredible fertile ground for me to continue to embrace the industry that I love and that I serve. And then along came an organization called INFRA, Independent Natural Foods Retailers Association. So as competition got tighter and tighter, big boxes carried more and more natural products, independent stores had to look for a way to band together and to be able to work as a virtual chain so that we could have leveraged buying power, so that we could have an availability for products, so that we could become a player in the arena with the Whole Foods and the Albertsons and the Costcos. So Infra was born out of that idea to serve the independent retailer as a virtual chain and give us access to product at a fair and reasonable price that we could compete on that level. It's been an amazing journey. I ended up serving on that board too. I absolutely love the opportunity to see how we can feed the planet, make a difference, look at the climate control issues that we're having, work with Climate Collaborative, work with the Non-GMO Project, work with the Organic Foods Association, integrate all of these things and be the messengers, because it is the independent natural foods retailers that carry the story forward. We are always the voice. We launch new products. We stand at the forefront of protecting consumers' right to be able to have products in the natural foods industry available. We encourage those entrepreneurs that create these incredible products, and we bring these products to market with the story behind them. What companies do they support? What are their well, how do they think? Who do they stand behind? Who do they make alignment with? Who do they give money to? How can we better make the planet? How can we serve by telling people stories of the great products that they make? And that's what independents do all day long, because we have the opportunity to one-on-one meet with our customers. So in my journey in the natural foods industries from the late 70s until currently, it's an ever-evolving role of learning, of being able to embrace something new and pass on that information, to change people's lives, to encourage them to support organics and biodynamic farming, to be able to understand why that's important, to understand the difference that we can make in climate, the difference that we can make in sustainability of product, like supporting something like sustainably harvested palm. I mean, for years and years, harvesting palm destroyed the orangutan population. Now we have a way to sustainably harvest palm and at the same time support the people in these countries that need supporting because they're getting paid fair market wages. So we have been an industry that has created fair trade. We've created fair pricing. We have supported and advocated for that and actually taught consumers the importance of looking for these kinds of labels. We've stood behind the non-GMO. We've proposed and supported and really actually told people the story of why organic integrity is so important and standing behind USDA organic and the certifications that go into it. These stories are stories that need to be told, and independent retailers do that the best of anyone. So I'm really proud to be a part of them. And that's my story.
Wow, what a journey, Cheryl. It's just so amazing. I had only been with you about 4 years from 90 to 94. The all the giving that you've given back to this industry is just amazing. And we've now fast forwarded. We're in 2022. And what has it been like this last few years with your store, your beautiful Whole Wheatery store? What is this? Where is your journey right now with all that you've been through, especially retailing in this crazy few years?
Well, it's been a tough few years. I think it's probably been some of the hardest years for being able to run a natural food store because you not only have to run your business, deal with supply chain issues, deal with absenteeism, try to deal with customers, dealing with legislation, a different kind of legislation, but legislation that gives you rules and regulations that in the beginning were changing on a daily basis. So those things have been difficult. And I think the hardest part for me as the leader of the store doing that is to be able to lift the spirit of everybody. These are hard times. People don't really know what to expect. They didn't expect it was going to last this long. They didn't know how to live in a world that was completely different and foreign to them. Lines of communication changed, access to friends and family changed, access to product and product selection changed. But I think the silver lining is we made it. We're making it. We are still out there making a difference. We've kept our doors open. We've served the public. We have found new products. We've told the stories of them. Many of us developed web cart and web services and curbside pickup and store delivery that we would have never done had this pandemic not hit. We've certainly been able to speak to our community. And for us, we became a beacon of safety. The big box stores maybe were a little bit more slower to react, or they had different standards, or maybe they thought they didn't need to adopt those standards, whereas we jumped to the forefront. So I think that's probably the biggest changes that we've seen was just keeping everybody's morale up, making the changes as quickly and expeditiously as we could, guiding our customers to new product selection and choices, and keeping our shelves full by finding new companies to actually supply us with.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's pretty intense. What I do know about your store and yourself is when you said community and your staff and yourself are always been friends. Like people walk in and they instantly feel at home. And I bet it was such a comfort for the city of Lancaster. And what I remember is people from 100 miles around would actually go to your store from 100 miles around that area, which is quite a draw. And to go to a place that you can go, I feel at home. That must have been a real resource for people to go to. Um, Jerry, as well, has worked with Cheryl over the years in different aspects. And Jerry, what questions do you have for Cheryl? Oops.
Yeah, you need to unmute there, Jerry.
Yep. I have a question I've been wanting to ask her for years.
Uh-oh.
It's not a hard question, but I'm intrigued. Why did you call your store the Whole Wheatery?
Oh, it seems very silly right now, but back in the day, and I remember this was back in the early 80s, and whole wheat was a cool thing. It was very cool. Nobody wanted white bread. That's what the low class bread was, white bread. Everybody wanted whole grain bread and whole wheat this and whole wheat that. I mean, my God, we made whole wheat chocolate cakes and whole wheat carrot cakes. And so Whole Wheatery was a cool name, and we had a bakery. And now I want to call myself the Unwheatery, but it's okay.
Yeah, because of the gluten intolerance issue. But no,
Yeah, non-wheatery. But if you continue to diversify your product mix,
sure.
Sometimes the name won't get in the way. And I think we've been successful at doing that.
Well, it's very memorable. So I think it's a great name. But I know going farther back, maybe in your experience that you didn't have many choices in whole grain foods.
No. The macrobiotic people were the people that kind of drove the natural products industry, and those and the bulk food producers. So there wasn't as much, but by the time I got into it, people were, Ezekiel bread was around, the sprouted breads were around. There was whole wheat baking going on. There was product coming onto our shelves that were pre-made that had some whole grains to it. So it was starting to change a little bit. Even grocery stores were picking up a little more whole grains. So now we've got whole grain everything. We've got sprouted everything. We've got non-gluten everything. We've got every kind of grain you can imagine. And they still keep finding them in far off places and bringing them to this country and telling us how great these grains are for us. And we put them in food and eat them and enjoy them.
Well, go ahead, Bonnie.
I was just curious, Cheryl, with the trends that are happening right now. Indeed, it's been the wheat-free, the gluten-free, and the unique. What would you say the biggest trend in 2022 in this past year or so? Where do you think it's headed right now, the natural products industry?
Well, thank goodness we're in an industry of innovation, and our people have never stopped creating. And so we see a huge influx continuing of keto products and big influx of plant-based proteins, foods that look like their counterparts in the animal kingdom and have the same flavor profiles. So we're seeing that continuing, and the resurgence of dietary supplements. I mean, COVID brought it all back to home. I mean, we still have to take care of ourselves. We're still responsible for our health. This is still the cold and flu season, only on steroids. And so we saw all those people in our supplement aisles coming back to teaching again, talking about what we need to keep in our medicine cabinets. And that was a big trend in 2022, because it might have been ebbing off a little bit, but we saw people really embracing their own wellness and being part of that.
Wow, that is really a wonderful thing you said, to keep people on point, that to take charge of their own health and to have a resource such as your store, and to go to find out that information.
We will always be the link to the story, whether it's the story about how something is produced, what companies stand for something, what kind of ingredients are important, whatever the story is. So we will always be that link. And I think that's why communities embrace natural food stores, and we become such an integral part of them. And there's a trust that's formed between a natural foods retailer that's committed to their community and those community members. And so you can really you can really grow yourself and ingrain yourself in the community when you build trust. And that's what I think most of the people that have shown as beacons in their community through COVID have done and continue to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Jerry loves the history and I love the forward. And where are you right in the middle right now? What is Cheryl doing herself? I mean, every day you go to the store, you are actually in your store as a small business owner. You are in your store all the time and in the trenches with what's going on. And I'm just curious, staffing. What is that like nowadays? Working hot
Well, the
potato here.
trenches, it's been a trench. There's no doubt about it. We've
Mhm.
been in the trenches, but we've all been in it together. The core of my staff has stayed solid, stayed good. People have come and gone. We've had the greatest amount of turnover in these last 2 years we've had in the 40 years, but that's to be expected. And there was a lot of reasons for that, which all of which we don't need to go into. But I think being in the trenches is the inspiration that the rest of the team needs. I'm not afraid to work like everybody else. I'm not afraid to be out there. I'm not afraid to deal with the public. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to take the right precautions. I'm going to protect my staff. I'm going to protect my customer. So I think that that's why I get up and go to work. Plus, I love what I do. I mean, how great is it to talk to people about choices they can make for a better diet, a better lifestyle, maybe better wellness tools, maybe bringing a child into the world and giving them, the opportunity to be healthier than maybe they were raised. So there's so many pluses to being in the industry, and you don't get that if you're sitting at home looking at it. You have to get that by being out with the people that you're serving and inspiring your own staff to become the teachers. They are the teachers, and they have to do that, and you can only do that if you're there to push them to teach a little more and tell a little more.
You also, Cheryl, have a camaraderie with the infra members all over the country. And there's a camaraderie there within the industry itself, it seems.
Well, I think that's what serving on a board does. And as we've seen in that sweet little video, I love to do that. And the more boards you serve on, the more connections you make. Infra was a big thing for me because it required, as a buying co-op, you to adhere to certain principles of the co-op. And a lot of that has to do with pricing. And a lot of us had trouble sustaining ourselves as big boxes put the products that we carried on our shelves, and they could offer a better price. That's why Infra filled that niche of saying, hey, I can buy just as good as you can buy, and I can pass this discount on, and my customers are going to think I'm just as good as you are. And so that's where the Infra thing was great for the pricing and for the store itself, but it's the community of people that I can pick up a phone during COVID and say, oh my gosh, how are you handling this? Or what are you doing about staffing? Or how are you incentivizing your people? Or what trends are you seeing? And that's what a community does. And so Infra for me is a community of independent retailers facing the same problems I'm facing, but maybe in a different part of the country.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, Jerry, do you have some more questions for?
I have
Oh,
a
he
question
does.
in the winding down our show here today. It occurs to me in 40 years, there may be some outstanding customer experiences that you found inspirational in the whole big picture of what we're doing, which is health. Does anything come to mind on that?
Well, it's constant that we get customers come up and say to our staff, thank you for introducing me to this product or that product. We've had babies named after staff members, people that couldn't get pregnant. You laugh, but I can think of 3. But mostly people just saying, thank you, when nobody would listen, you listened. And thank you for telling me about this product or that, because it really made a difference. So I think those are the stories that keep us all going. And you can't not be in this industry and not experience them, because people want information. When you give them truthful, non-misleading information and they can make better decisions about their life, they're going to take a moment to thank you for it. And gee, that's pretty darn good.
There you are, Jer. That is wonderful. Cheryl, I remember that. I remember that in the store, that people would walk in almost stricken when their doctor said they couldn't have this and that to eat anymore, and they had to change their diet, and they were clueless, and they would come into the store, and the staff would lead them around and say, your diet isn't this narrow, it's this narrow now. And we would open the eyes, the possibilities, and as you said, the trust between the customers that came in, to trust that you would share with them some of the amazing things that were there, that they had no idea that were out there. You know, as you said, quinoa, which people could never pronounce.
Yeah, there's a pretty long list of things people don't know about. And that's the great opportunity to share those stories. And they share with us too. So it's a two-way street. You know, customers will be happy to tell you what worked for them and what didn't. You know, sometimes more often what didn't, but that's okay. You know, we learn that way too, because there's probably other circumstances. But again, I think that's when you walk into a place and you feel that somebody is going to listen to you, it's such a great feeling. And that's what people do in this industry. They listen and they give back. So we're lucky to be in this industry, because that's what we do best.
One of the funniest ones I heard there was echinacea.
Oh. Yeah, echinacea is a toughie. Yeah, we can go through a whole list of things that people mispronounce. Tofu. I mean, we've had that, you know, it just goes on and on. And sometimes it's a customer saying, I read about this product, and it used to be back when Dr. Oz was popular, and they'd always come up with part of a name, and you'd have to play the guessing game to fill it in. You know, 20% of the time we could get it within a couple of tries, but occasionally they would stump the panel. But that's always fun, because there's new stuff out there all the time. And sometimes our customers bring us the first of the information, and we got to go do the research. And then we learn about it, and we can find the product or tell them about it or source them another location for how they can get it. So it can go both ways, us or them telling us.
Well, I know one thing. You have been a blessing to Lancaster, California, and the entire United States in your industry, a leader in the industry that brought strength, leadership, and really a brightness, an openness to an industry that was going through all sorts of changes for 40 years. And some of it was been hard with the politics of it. And some of it's been, you know, hard with this last few years with literally a pandemic going on, you know, but meanwhile, the whole time is you're holding true to the vision of helping others find what they need for themselves within this wonderful, wonderful natural products industry, which we thank you so much, Cheryl, for your service, because that's what you've done all these years. We appreciate you.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, and it's been a great ride.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Well, we hope all of you will check in and sign up, because we love having guests like Cheryl, who are pioneers in the natural health movement, and here on the Health Pioneer Theater. Sign up, and we look forward to seeing you in future. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you all.